show. It's another unfortunate one. The Toronto Raptors did lose to the Detroit Pistons 116 to 112, moving the Raptors to 17 and 23 on the season. This is, I don't know how many losses in a row at this point. I'm back. I wasn't here for the last post-game live shows. Arar and Oren held it down pretty good. And that was a miserable game from what I was hearing and from what I saw as well. Oren, 2 losses to the Detroit Pistons in 2 weeks. The first time they had no Jeremy Grant, and now they had him back. And the first time, Toronto Raptors didn't really have much. They had Norman Powell, I believe Kyle Lowry, and no one else, which has kind of been the story the past 2 weeks with all the COVID protocols. And now Toronto has most of their guys back. OG Anunoby was the only guy sitting out, really, for tonight's game. They got Fred VanVleet back, which was good news. They got Pascal Siakam back, very good news. But, again, the Toronto Raptors did lose 116 to 112. Oren, what did you take away from this game? What kind of stood out to you the most? And I have a feeling I know what you're going to say. So go ahead.
Do you? Wow, I don't even know what I'm going to say.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say a specific Toronto Raptor, but
well, I'll let you say that.
Okay.
I mean, it was just kind of all around kind of a meh effort, other than Powell, obviously, who might as well start off with. He really carried the Raptors, We've had the Powell discussion before, but on a night like tonight where Lowry didn't have his shot, Fred didn't have his shot, Siakam didn't have his scoring touch, they completely relied on Powell, and he almost, like he has the last few games, he almost carried them home. He's doing about everything you could ask from him right now, being like the lead number 1 guy. He's actually being incredibly efficient at it, but it doesn't really matter if they keep losing games like this. Like, as great as Powell's been in this stretch, and it is a reason you can point to and say, like, we shouldn't trade him, like, that's completely fair. But as good as he's been during this stretch, the whole team, especially defensively, just isn't doing enough. Like, it's just, Lewis kind of wrote about this after last game on Raptors Republic, and it's such a funny difference from last season where it's just every time late in the game, even if they were down 10, whatever, you felt like they were going to come back and execute. It was all about the execution down the stretch. Last season, their execution down the stretch was pitch perfect, even in the fourth quarters, not even talking the last 5 minutes, end of the game when they really had to flip a switch, they just ran their stuff so well on both ends of the floor. Yes. And they just found ways. They found every single way to win. And this season, it's the opposite, where they found every single way to lose. Like, this was a kind of a new way to lose tonight. Kind of actually making a real comeback, and then, stupid foul, offensive rebounds. That's been the story all season. You make one play nice on the offensive end, and then on the defensive end, you completely give it up by, giving an offensive rebound or something like that. So it's overall just disappointing to see this Raptors team be what they are, because guys are coming back from COVID and OG's not here. But we've seen them lose to bad teams all season. So yeah, that's kind of the bad side of it.
Yeah. I mean, the bad side of it is they lost to the worst team in the Eastern Conference. I mean, there's no going around that. The Detroit Pistons, they were 10-29 coming into this game. They're now 11-29, still last in the Eastern Conference. Again, this is the second time they've lost to this team in 2 weeks. They probably should have took both. I mean, I don't care, honestly, if you're missing Kyle, Norm, Siakam, Fred, and Anunoby, because the first time, if the other team's missing their best player in Jeremy Grant, there's no way guys like Saban Lee and Isaiah Stewart and all these guys should be, controlling the game like they did. And that was the first time. And now it's this time where, guys like Sadiq Bey are just 28 points from rookie, 8 for 14 from the field. That's just, as a fan, it wasn't a fun game to watch simply because it wasn't a back and forth, or it was literally the Pistons take the lead, and the Raptors just kept clawing back. It felt like they were climbing up a cliff and just kept falling, and then climbing, and then falling, and then climb. And it just got to a point where I think, for me at least, I lost hope maybe like at 17 different times in the game, regained hope, lost hope again. The runs just weren't it. I mean, they tried. Kyle just wasn't there tonight. I kind of had a feeling that Fred, his shot wouldn't be there, and his shot did look flat a lot. He was hitting the front rim a lot. And I guessed it right. I was literally talking to my friend just before the game started, and I told him, I'm like, this is going to be another Norman Powell game. It doesn't matter if Siakam and them are back. They're going to rely on Norman Powell a lot more, and I feel like that's how it's going to be over the next week or so until guys like Fred and guys like Pascal are fully back on their feet. I mean, COVID is no joke. Like we've said it multiple times on the show, Oren, guys like Jason Tatum are still complaining about, the after effects of COVID and what it did to their respiratory system, their stamina. They feel it. Fred had an interesting quote, in the scrum, I believe it was yesterday, where he said, COVID's totally different. Like it's not a regular fever. I mean, you could say you have feverish symptoms, but it feels totally different in your bones, in your blood. You just feel it, and it's totally different. I'm paraphrasing what he said, obviously, but it's totally different. So I didn't expect Fred to come out and, drop 25, 30 in this game, but also I didn't expect Fred to shoot as bad as he did, to be quite honest with you. And he got a lot of good looks. This isn't, a show where we're just going to shit on Fred and the rest of the guys. But, I mean, criticism. Norm did literally everything he could in this game. Like, there's nothing more Norm Powell could do. 43 points on 18 shots. 43 points on 18 shots. Like, that's not normal. We see guys like Westbrook and all these other stars in the league putting up 43 points on 25, 27 shots. And Norm did it on 18 shots. So, got to the line, 9 free throws. Like, Norm did everything he could. I mean, what else is there to say? The Raptors just weren't good enough, like you said, defensively. I'm looking at, the team stats. Oren, they forced a lot of turnovers, the Raptors. But again, like, this is something that I've been saying the last 5, 6, 7 games. The Raptors are forcing all these turnovers, 21 forced turnovers, right? And they only had 9 themselves as a team. But you only got 11 points off those turnovers. So, I mean, like, when you force 21 turnovers, that's 21 extra possessions for your team, and then you only have 11 points from 21 possessions. That's not good enough, Oren. It's just really not good enough. I was really excited with a guy that's storyline that I've been following the whole season. Honestly, he's become one of my favorite players to watch in the league, Jeremy Grant. Went from a role player in Denver to a guy who's looking like the lock for most improved player of the year. I mean, it was him and Christian Wood going back and forth. But I love Jeremy Grant. Is there any other kind of storylines that you saw in this game or anything else that interested you?
Yeah, there's a few things, but that Jeremy Grant, that last dagger
I knew you were going to
bucket,
say that.
that was nasty because, I mean, you talk about like the ability to create space, create your own shot. That's exactly what the Raptors miss in clutch time, like really like down the stretch clutch down. Like not a single player on this team can do it. They have other ways of scoring. Kyle will hit you with like his fadeaway elbow jumper, and Pascal will get you in the post, but no one has the dribble. If anything, OG is the guy who could like maybe one day develop it, but like that space creation just off the dribble, that was super impressive, especially against a defender in Kyle who's super smart in the way he defends. He didn't want to give him that much room, but he kind of just crossed him up a little bit. So good on them. They closed out that game. They deserve credit for closing it out with that dagger. A few other things I saw, like Fred and Kyle shot the ball really poorly tonight. And on one hand, you want to say, okay, they got to give the ball up a little bit more. They got to stop taking these shots, especially Fred. But who are they going to give the ball to? Because no one played well other than Norm. Literally not a single person. I could say they had an above average game other than Norm. Everyone else was just a little flat tonight. So you just have to battle through that. Like, you just have to watch guys put up shots even when they're not hitting. That's like a really frustrating thing to watch as a fan, but you also have to be a little bit empathetic, knowing that like no one else has it. So they have to create at a certain point. Someone's gonna have to shoot the ball.
Yeah.
Defensively, I was a little confused from the Raptors. Like, I just feel like they're doing too much sometimes, and I'm fine with that if you have like your best 5 guys on the floor, like OG, the small ball lineup we're all like in love with. Like, if you're doing that lineup, that's like a very veteran lineup. Okay, do what you want. Switch it, zone, do man, do a boxing one, do trap, whatever. But if you're playing still guys who are still unfamiliar with the system, I just don't know. Like, I mean, out of a timeout, Nurse went to a 2-3 zone all of a sudden, and they got like a wide open 3 off of it in the second quarter. And then in that same quarter, what's his name? Damon Lee? Something Lee.
Saban Lee, I think.
Saban Lee. Yeah, they trapped him in the pick and roll. And I was just like, why are you trapping this guy in the pick and roll? Like, go under maybe or chase him over, but no need to trap and then play 4-on-3. Like, it's just a couple confusing decisions that this team has been so bad defensively this year that it's honestly like, simplify the system a little bit.
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, Oren, I was looking at the live comments because I was like, we're bringing up stuff from the game that we saw from our own eyes. What did everyone else see? And this is something that I wanted to bring up myself, that a lot of people are bringing up in the live comments, and it's the rebound differential. I'm trying to find the exact one. James G said out-rebounded by over 20. Management dropped the ball by not getting a starting quality center, but it is inexcusable more than halfway through to not get a big man who can rebound.
Yeah, I mean, also they said in the broadcast that the Raptors were outscored 14-4 in the second chance points in the first half. I don't know I don't know if you have the whole game stats open, but it was just more of that in the second chance. Like, there was one play where Chris Boucher had 2 blocks back to back, but then someone else's man came in and cleaned up the offensive rebound. I think it was Josh Jackson, and just had a put back, and it was like all of that wasted energy just for you to give up an offensive rebound. There's really, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's focus or coaching, but it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. 54 rebounds from Detroit today and only 30 from Toronto. And Oren, I never like saying that, rebounding is why the team lost the game. If it's like an 8 rebound differential or 10, like, you really have to watch the game and see what the crux of the issues were, whether it be Toronto or any other team. But a 24 rebound differential, and honestly, it wasn't even the offensive rebounds as much. It felt like it at times. It was only 13-10 on offensive rebounds, but the defensive rebounds is where it was bad. It was 41 for Detroit and 20 for and a lot of that, Oren, was just simple like fundamentals. Like, why is it that when Chris Boucher is protecting the rim, and there was one specific possession that stood out to me where I forgot which guard it was. It might have been DeLon Wright that went up, and Chris Boucher blocked it. He went up for a floater. Chris Boucher blocks it. Detroit recovers it. They go up again. Chris Boucher blocks it again. But because Chris Boucher's back is towards the rim, and he's obviously not boxing out, Isaiah Stewart's just manhandling 3 Raptors down low. I think it was Siakam, if I'm not mistaken, Paul Watson, and there's a third guy. And it's just like, I get it. I mean, naturally, Isaiah Stewart is a better rebounder than all 3 of you. But, I mean, to get a rebound over all 3 of you is insane. That's just – it's something that just can't happen for Toronto. And, again, that's fundamentals. Nick Nurse said it himself, Oren. He said, when we're going to get these guys up to speed, speaking about, Siakam, Ben Fleet, Anunoby, and the rest of them, he said, we're not going to work on sets and all this other stuff. We're going to be working on fundamentals. I want these guys to get, their fundamentals down right and all of that. And then we'll start focusing on, the actual sets and different things that they do offensively and defensively. Nick Nurse said that he knows that Pascal and Fred are very smart individuals on the basketball court. Kyle Lowry as well. Kyle Lowry, I mean, one of the highest IQ players, I think, of this era, not just like playing now, I think of this entire era. So you don't necessarily have to teach these guys basketball in a way, or the system, or how to work through it. It's just like the fundamentals, like box a guy out. Like, I mean, I'm jumping up because Chris Boucher is getting 2 blocks in a row, and then I'm sitting back down pouting because Isaiah Stewart's absolutely dominating on the rebounds. It wasn't fun.
Fred and Pascal actually were the only 2 Raptors who were positive in the plus-minus column, which is kind of funny. But, I mean, I think, like, it's hard to blame Nick Nurse for this because COVID and a compact schedule, no practice time, guys in injuries and COVID have led guys in and out of the lineups. But at the same time, like, I'm really not even criticizing, but at the same time, this team looks poorly coached. Like, that's what I'm seeing, is just like you're so the fundamentals and the lack of discipline and the lack of execution down the stretch. That's coaching, right? Like, yes, of course it's on your players at the end of the day, but some way this coaching staff needs to come together and figure out how to help these guys execute in the stretch. Like I said, whether it's just playing a little more simply on the defensive end, whatever it is, like, not all of it comes down to coaching. Like Siakam throwing a bad pass to Lowry for Josh Jackson to just go up at the end of the game, like, that's not coach's fault, but a lot of stuff you can bring back to the coaches for sure. We're gonna show a couple clips here, right?
Yeah. So let's get into it.
All right, let's do it. I'm a little behind just on the video here, so forgive me. The first clip we're gonna show though is
guys in this team. Now all we have to do is get a win here tonight and get off this slide. Matt?
Yeah, it's great to
Clip
see.
Time.
Eugene Griffin back.
Oh yeah, this is just kind of fun. Siakam kind of. I mean, the good thing was he saw the first double team come too late. And he didn't like freak out or anything. He just kind of reposted and then had a really nice double.
All we have to do is get a win here tonight and get
just
off
the Siakam
clip.
And then yeah, he doesn't see Plumlee here, and he sees him too late, but it doesn't matter. He maintains the dribble, and then when Plumlee comes over, he just steps his non-pivot foot in between the two of them, in between Grant Plumlee, and goes up for the layup. So that was just kind of like a really beautiful, aesthetically pleasing play to watch. So wanted to highlight that one real quick.
Guys in this team. Now all we have to do is get a win here tonight and get off this slide.
And then is this the second clip?
It's great to see Eugene Griffin back. And
Let's
Pascal spinning around and laying it up and through in a 4-point
Yeah, let's do the second
well,
clip.
now they're
Perfect.
starting to send a second guy his way.
The second clip was just kind of like, I mean, we're not doing a turning point today, but this was one of many turning points in the game. I thought
it was a good idea until you called them out on it.
So watch Stanley Johnson here. He got pulled right after this clip by Nick Nurse, put in Aaron Baines for him, because if you're Stanley Johnson in this lineup, you have to shoot. Like, you cannot shoot that, and then you give it to your 6-foot guard to try a contested floater. That's not gonna do it, and that's why he got pulled. But like, the thing is, Stanley Johnson's shooting like 40% from 3 this season, so he doesn't have an excuse to not shoot a wide open corner 3. It's the most efficient shot in the game, right? And passing to and then he passes it to Lowry, expecting, like, you know, that's the thing, too much of a load is being put on the core guys this season because the bench hasn't taken any real responsibility scoring wise, and Lowry just misses the layup. And then on the other end, they went and they scored, and that was just one of those turning points in the game. What do you think about those?
The thing with that play specifically is that,
well, I think they would have,
like you literally said it, like there's no responsibility being taken offensively by the core guys. And I mean, sorry, not by the core guys, by the, I guess, peripheral players on the bench. I think and that really messes with the team psyche, because if you're Kyle Lowry and you know, as the opposing defense from Detroit's side, they're thinking, okay, you know, Stanley didn't shoot the last wide open three. So this time around, when Lowry drives, we're going to crowd him like crazy, and it's going to be a likely forced turnover. And it just makes life so much harder for the guards, for Lowry, for Fred, and it really starts messing with the Toronto Raptors offense. Like I said, like other than the layup and the dunk, maybe the free throw, like the corner three in terms of shots is probably the easiest shot in the game. You're an NBA player. You're an NBA player. Like the reason why, you know, a lot of fans on Raptors Twitter have said, you know, why isn't Rondé signed and why isn't this? And a lot of it obviously has to do with Rondé not being able to shoot. But I think with Nick Nurse, the reason you have a Stanley Johnson, and like you say, shooting 40%, the reason you have a Stanley Johnson is to get those wide open looks and for him to hit them at a pretty good rate. And when he's not even shooting them, forget, like, it's one thing to miss the shots. Like, if you're missing them, okay, you shot it, whatever, you move on. But to not even attempt it, like, that puts an enormous strain on the offense. It's unfortunate, honestly. And another thing, Oren, I wanted to mention that I literally wrote down in my notes is, why was Stanley even playing if that was the case? Like, why didn't Bembry get any run in this game? You have Fred, who's coming off of, you know, what we called protocols earlier, but he did admit he had COVID. You know, he was diagnosed with COVID-19. So, I mean, it's unfortunate. I thought Bembry would get tons of run as a guard in this. They wouldn't put as much strain on a guy like Fred VanVleet, but I guess I was wrong. Stanley got some run. I'm looking at his minutes right now. Only 11, honestly, but I think Baines played a lot more than I would have liked.
Yeah.
On the glass, like, it's like when you're the only classic five on the team, I mean, come on. Like, 5 rebounds in 26 minutes, it's just not enough. It's literally just not enough. And at this point, Oren, we've talked so much about the trade deadline. I'd be absolutely shocked at this point. Like, if you're losing to the worst team in the East and there's a 24, rebound differential, I'd be absolutely shocked if Masai didn't do everything in his power to get a rebounder on the team of some sort. That's why, honestly, I thought Alize Johnson on the 905 was going to be the guy being brought up rather than Henry Ellenson. But
yeah,
hey, Sahal's not always right. So
no, it would have made sense. But the rebounding, yeah, it's been probably the number one issue all season long.
Yeah.
It seems like the timely rebounds are the worst. Like, it seems like they're giving up those offensive rebounds right after, like, fighting for the whole shot clock to get a stop. And those are the ones they're giving up. But yeah, I mean, I'm not like freaking out because this team, when they're completely healthy, like when OG's back, Stanley Johnson's probably not going to play. That's probably the reasoning, just in terms of they're missing OG still, but they got their guards back. So, and Bembry, honestly, I was not impressed how he's played since returning from the All-Star break defensively.
Yeah.
I think Johnson's been better defensively, but it's kind of weird to say, but I actually was thinking that this game, like, shooting is a big concern on this team. Like, there's just not enough of it given the guys' other offensive liabilities. Like, given that you don't have a guy who can just create his own shot or whatever, they rely on a lot of ball movement and guys to hit spot up threes. That's like the biggest source of offense on this team. And like Baines, Johnson, Watanabe, Bembry, none of them shoot the three well. Even Watson hasn't shot the three well. So maybe get Malachi. What's Malachi's dad saying though? You think he's happy with his boss? So,
funny story, any Raptors fans that are watching this, Malachi Flynn's dad allegedly, I don't know if it's been confirmed, but allegedly, was it a Reddit thread that he was on? Yeah, so he was on a Reddit thread. There was tweets just all over Twitter. We're going to get you one up in a second, but essentially Malachi Flynn's dad did a little, I want to say Marvin Bagley-esque kind of protection post type long. I don't want to like give it away completely. I want you guys to see it for yourself, but he was clamoring for more, minutes for his son. He thought Malachi Flynn, it was a long paragraph. It was, oh, my son's, the best pick and roll kid out of the nation, out of college, and you drafted him for a reason. He's a first rounder. He's I don't know if he mentioned his G League success, but Malachi did really well in G League. We all know that for sure. He was protecting his son, and he made his case for why his son deserves more minutes on the team. You can probably see it on the screen now, but
yeah.
Oren, first, the thing I want to say is, do you agree with that, the case that he made? And obviously, I think it's easier to say you do at this point, coming off of a loss and with the bench playing so awful. But what did you think about that whole situation? It was all over Raptors Twitter.
Well, I think, first of all, it's not a good look from his dad, because the Raptors are very much an organization that like to keep this sort of stuff in-house and not make a big deal out of like playing time and stuff like that. And also he compared him to Patrick Mahomes, and also like,
oh, he did?
Yeah, he said not letting him play pick and roll is like not letting Mahomes pass. But you can't expect him to come in and play and get pick and roll reps in his first season. Like, Fred VanVleet didn't get pick and roll reps until his like third season. He was just an off-ball guy. So
yeah,
that expectation is kind of crazy to me, but I agree that he should be playing, like, especially in the sense that I don't understand why they called him up from the G League if they weren't going to play him. That was my thing. Like, I think it was smart to put him in the G League, smart to like give him a team and let him run it. And then they called him up before the playoffs. They called him up because Kyle got injured, his hand. But then they didn't play him once Kyle got back. They kept him there. They could have sent him back for the playoffs. They just kept him, and they just weren't playing him. So that's confusing. Like, pick a side. Are you going to play him in the G League, or are you going to play him in the NBA? But don't just let him sit in the NBA. But
to be fair, Oren, I think I'd understand not playing him if the bench was playing really well, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I mean, Malachi, we're not expecting to, like, if he were to play hypothetically, we're not expecting to come in, 15 points, 5 assists. Like, that's not realistic for Malachi. But to get some sort of juice offensively, to get the offense flowing a bit better, especially, like I said, like, Fred is literally coming off of COVID. Kyle and Fred, I think, were like 4 for 26 or some crazy number today. Kyle was 2 for 13. Yeah, they were both 2 for 13. So 4 for 26. Kyle was 0 for 7 from 3. Fred was 1 for 7. I mean, goodness gracious. Like,
yeah,
those two are shooting that bad, Oren, and then you have Chris Boucher and Norman Powell shooting that well. You need something from your bench. Like, the bench, you can't. Like, I'm looking at it, Matt Thomas, 3 points, Paul Watson, 3 points in 21 minutes. Like, Aaron Baines, 9 points, Stanley Johnson, 0, and Utah, I can't even blame. He played 4 minutes, but 0 points from Utah. You're not going to win games, Toronto, if you have 4 or 5 playable guys. So does he have a point? Maybe, but again, probably not the best look. If I'm Malachi Flynn, I'm honestly pretty mad at my dad for posting that, especially because it went around everywhere. We even had like Lakers fans and all these people like, oh shoot, because I mean, when the Bagley thing happened with his father, I mean, I took interest to that because I was like, whoa, someone's dad's speaking up for them. You usually don't see that that often in the NBA, but who knows? I don't know if the post is still up on Reddit. Unfortunate for them. So that was a little interesting thing on the side.
Yeah. My brother just texted me saying the Raps are going to blow it up. And the craziest thing is that, like, people have made this point on Twitter, but COVID really might have ended this era of the Raptors. Like, I don't want to freak out, but they were playing the best ball of their season before the All-Star break.
Yeah.
And ever since then, they're losing so many games, and it's not even like OG's not even back. Fred and Pascal were both bad today. It's not like they're in good form. So if they don't get things on track, like now, the trade deadline is a week away. By the way, tune in for the trade deadline show on the 25th. And you can't sit there as Masai Ujiri and not make any moves towards the future if this is the way things are trending. I mean, and maybe Masai and Bobby are secretly a little bit happy, not that guys got COVID, but that their decision is now a little easier. Would you agree? Like, if they keep losing heading into the deadline, I think the decision making is a little easier, because buying for the future, buying for this season, like going all in on this season, becomes a lot harder to justify. And then there's only really one or two options.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to make me, I don't know what you're trying, or if it's a little sly thing you're trying with this trade Norm thing that, because, I tweeted it during the game. I'm still keep Norm, right? Yeah. I get it. The Raptors have to make a move. And if they see a situation with Norm or with Kyle or with whoever else, revamping the bench completely, if they see a situation where, players are offered to them that can really make this team better, I mean, I'm all for it. People, I guess the sentiment on Raptors Twitter recently, if you're on Twitter, the sentiment has been, it's really been two sides. It's been, tank completely. I mean, this season's not worth it anymore. Or, just keep trying to win. And people who are of the tanking side are essentially saying that, tank is obviously like a harsh word to use, but I guess not prioritize winning. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I'm not on that side. I've never been on the side of, just losing to lose. I've never seen it really work in the NBA. I mean, you could bring up, some situations where people always say Philly. Like when I'm having this argument with some close friends, they say Philly. Well, it worked with Philly, It's like, Philly could have easily just flopped on. I mean, and they're also lucky that Ben Simmons and Embiid were the two players in separate drafts that ended up coming up when they were really bad. But this draft is really good. People love this draft. People love the top 5 talent in this draft. But like I said, the sentiment's been one or the other. There's a lot of people who fall in the middle who are just like, you know what? If you have to give away Lowry, give him away. If you have to give away Norm and you're getting something good back, give that away. But I think that a sentiment that everyone, Oren, can agree on is that the Raptors have some serious holes. One of them being a center that could preferably rebound, and some sort of, I guess, shooting boost, because what we're seeing now again from the Raptors bench, it's just not enough. Like Paul Watson, I was super high on him coming into the season. I honestly thought by now he would have played a lot better than he has. He's been, not that inspiring. Matt Thomas has been a player that at this point, I don't know about you, Oren, but I'm at the point with Matt Thomas where it's like, if he's waived tomorrow, I mean, it is what it is. Like, he was a fun guy to root for, but it feels like every time he's on the court, something bad happens. So, and the one thing he can do really well is shoot, and it's like teams know that. I mean, when he first came to the league, it was like, oh, who's this guy? And then next thing you know, he has 4 made threes. But now it's like, people know who he is. People know Matt Thomas has one thing about him, and he's an elite 3-point shooter. So they're just crowding him at the line, and then he just becomes useless. And defensively, teams attack him. It's a shit show with Matt Thomas, to be honest. Be honest and frank. And then with the rest of the guys, Stanley, Utah, Baines, like, they just can't score. Bembry can't score. Ellington just looks shook when he's in the game. He's a guy that, like, yes, he's a G League superstar. You throw him in the G League, he absolutely dominates. But when he comes to this level, he just can't put it all together. So,
yeah, the bench is super young, and it's very much not good this season. But it could get, some of those guys can pop going forward. Maybe at the end of this season, maybe next season. But it's pretty clear that they're not as good as they need to be to drive winning right now.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, Oren, I don't know about you. Like, I've been looking at trade deadline targets almost every single day, and a guy that I've become more and more, I want to say, a guy that I've liked a lot, especially after watching the first Detroit game, is Wayne Ellington. Like, I personally want for Toronto, if they can get a big, I also want a wing that can shoot, but is also not a liability defensively. And Wayne Ellington has a pretty good, I want to say, history of perimeter defense. Obviously, he's much older now, but he's definitely a playable guy. And he's a guy that, Raptors don't really have to give up much. And I'd personally want to play him over, guys like Matt Thomas, guys like, Stanley Johnson on some nights. So
yeah,
you deadline targets you've been looking at, but I've been all over the Wayne Ellington train recently.
Yeah, I saw he was they were asking for a second round pick for him, which is actually
Yeah.
a really low asking price. So yeah, I think that would definitely hurt us. But in general, my trade deadline thought is more towards the future. Like, I only want to take on long-term money if it's like a team-friendly contract, and I want to skew younger in the deals. But that's just where I'm at. And I'm not even saying trade Norm or trade Kyle. I'm saying kind of let what the market dictate what they do. If they get a Godfather offer on any of those guys, do it. And then there's also fringe moves to be made, whether it's, Stanley Johnson or Aaron Baines or any of those guys. Teams you never know might want to. I mean, if there's not that many sellers, which doesn't look like there's going to be, maybe those guys will actually get you something valuable.
Yeah. Let's talk about this tweet that's up on the screen right now for all of our watchers. It's a Nick Nurse quote where I'm not going to read the entire thing to you guys. I'm sure you guys are all of, intermediate reading level or whatever you want to call it. But essentially, to paraphrase it, Nurse says that, this team has proven themselves. They deserve a chance. Talking about his current roster and essentially addressing all the people that have said, blow this entire thing up. The Raptors don't have the juice. They're on a massive losing streak. They've lost against really bad teams, which are all true. Right? These are all things that have happened. This is reality. The Raptors have lost against Detroit, the worst team in the East, twice in 2 weeks. Right? And they've lost against other teams that are really, really bad basketball teams. Have they lost guys? Absolutely. Like the Raptors have. Fred hasn't been there. A bunch of guys haven't been there, but I mean, some of the losses have just been inexcusable. I'm on Team Nick Nurse. I don't know about you. These guys deserve a chance. We know that a core of OG, Siakam, Fred, and Lowry are a very, very good core. But again, like you said, if a Godfather offer, I should say. I said God offer. If a Godfather offer comes up for Kyle Lowry or even Norm, I mean, you're going to have to look at it. You have to look at it at that point. So,
yeah. I don't know if I agree with Nurse in the sense that I don't know if they've proven themselves. Like, they had one really nice stretch against Milwaukee and Philadelphia. But outside of that stretch, how many good teams have they beaten? Like, okay, they beat Brooklyn.
I think Oren, he's talking more historically though.
For sure, but you have to like Mark and Serge were such a big part of that.
That is true. Yeah.
So it's just apples and oranges to me. You judge each season on the season, and this season, I mean, there's tons of reasons for it, excuses, COVID, all this stuff, like legitimate reasons. But this season, I don't think you could say they've proven themselves to be a championship contender. I was higher than them, but I've watched every game and I've never thought that this team, since it started, I've just never said, okay, yeah, this team could beat anyone in 7 games. I don't think they've proven that. They've been too inconsistent all season long to the point where, yeah, they had one nice stretch and maybe they would have kept it going if there wasn't a break in COVID. It's impossible to say, but looking at where things are right now, I don't think there's anything you can do to get this team to the championship this season.
Yeah. We'll probably wrap it up there. I don't know if you have any other clips to show. I mean, I'm the type of guy that even if we lose by 20, I love looking at clips, whether we're, it's the bad side or the good side. I don't know if you have anything left, but I think we'll wrap it up there. What I saw from the live comments, though, Warren, I don't know if you've taken a look, but the live comments have been really crazy today. I'm just gonna read out some of them.
People are freaking out, man.
People are freaking out. Chris Willis said, "I hate Dwayne Casey revenge games."
People are being what?
No, sorry. Chris Willis said, "I hate Dwayne Casey revenge games," and I was gonna say, it's funny because I was watching the Pistons broadcast and they mentioned how 2 years ago with Kawhi Leonard, the championship-winning team. Dwayne Casey swept us that year, if people remember. And then last year, the Raptors swept the Pistons, and now it looks like the Pistons are, gonna sweep us. Going through some more comments. This guy said, so Chris Willis against it, so Dwayne Casey's just a better coach? Probably not.
Nah, definitely not.
Probably not. Matt T says Norman Powell versus the world. Jonathan says Raptors equal directionless. It has looked directionless, honestly, really recently at least. Omari Styles said Spicy P looked slow. I mean, he's coming, guys, give him a break. Like, he's gonna come on.
This is where everyone's biases come out, because you can tell which guys are mad at Siakam and which guys are mad at Fred, because both of them were bad. Both of them didn't have their legs. And our producer, we know he's definitely an anti-Siakam guy. But we're gonna play a game. Our producer wants us to play a game called Clip Reacting. So I don't know. Are you watching the clips?
I am.
Yeah, that was actually a really nice play. Just Kyle just missed the open three, but
you have to make that shot. That shot from Kyle Lowry, like, you almost have to make it. And Chris Boucher 2 years ago on that roll, he's probably not making that pass. As crazy as that sounds, like, he's going up with it.
Yeah.
Siakam's on the elbow, he gets the ball, immediate kick to Lowry. We know Siakam's a good playmaker. He gets the ball and immediately swings it to Lowry. Maybe Lowry could have done one more to Norman Powell, but I mean, that's a really good shot from Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, no, it's true. It is kind of surprising that Norm only had 16 shots, I think. Like, you gotta feed Norm on a game like today. And I think Kyle and Fred were both guilty of this game, of kind of taking shots when they could have found their teammates and been a little less aggressive, because neither of them had it. I give Kyle a bit more benefit of the doubt with this stuff, because we've seen him heat up from nowhere, but Fred, usually, if he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it.
Fred was kind of like disappointing, because like you said, like, when he doesn't have it, he genuinely doesn't have it. Like, he usually consistently stays cold for a game. But he has to know, like, you're coming off of, like, how many missed games. Like, it's okay to just shoot like 6 or 7 shots in one game if you know your shot's not falling. You don't, like, I get it, and it's so hard to tell a shooter like Fred. Like, Fred is a shooter. Fred is a legitimate shooter, so it's hard to tell a guy like Fred, like, stop shooting the ball. But like Norm, when Norm is 14 for 18 from the field, or I don't care what the hell anyone's saying, like, Norm has to shoot the ball more. So
Schmidt does an outstanding job there in New York.
We're going through this other one. This is ugly. This is fully ball.
Fred off the high screen and roll.
Does an outstanding job there and only in New York.
Looking for Baines. He's looking for him. And Baines scores it, but
it's
like
no look past the Baines there. But yeah, he probably shouldn't have picked up his dribble. And then he kind of bailed himself out, though. Baines, man. He's so weird, because he has these stretches where he actually looks like bouncy and good defensively, and then like the next 5 minutes later, he can't do anything right.
Cannot get off the floor.
Yeah, and his hands are really terrible. Like, rebounding wise, it's crazy. Like,
I didn't realize honestly how bad his hands were until I think it was last week. I actually started watching Serge Ibaka Raptors highlights, and all of the little dump offs that Kyle Lowry was doing to him under the net. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, as good as a playmaker as Kyle Lowry is, like, Kyle Lowry can give you some difficult passes to corral sometimes, and I feel like we were so spoiled because Serge Ibaka did such a good job of corralling those passes and somehow, like, immediately going out. We know Serge, like, he's bouncy. Like, he's getting older now, but like, he can go up and dunk it. But damn, like, when Baines catches those balls, like, if he catches it, if you play NBA 2K, Aaron Baines has a 21 standing dunk rating, because at this point, it's like, I don't see him catch the ball and go up and really dunk it. It's almost like he gets blocked every single time. I think we're gonna end it off there though, Oren. This is a game that just wasn't all that fun to watch.
Stay on your guy. Stay on your guy right here.
Pistons, the 15th place Eastern Conference.
Great defense by
Pistons.
And guess who we're back with on Friday? Only the number one team in the league, the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, just the number one.
And the Jazz are actually like especially well equipped kind of to beat the Raptors because their game is so perimeter based. They shoot so many threes. You need to keep guys in front of you if you play the Jazz because they have so many ball handlers who can get the defense to rotate just by getting past their man. And the Raptors, just their perimeter defense has been pretty lackluster all season outside of Fred VanVleet. So that's going to be a rough game. Actually, on the bright side, OG should be back.
He should be back. And what you guys are watching now, by the way, is the last clip of the game. Jeremy Grant, the likely most improved player of the year.
The only thing I'll say about the defense on this play is that Lowry probably shouldn't be the primary. It's not like there's a screen there.
That was actually, Lauren, that was our first live comment of the day. It's like, why is Lowry on Jeremy Grant on the last play of the game? And we have guys like Siakam.
Yeah, it's probably Siakam in this case. Usually you want OG there. But, I mean, Siakam didn't have great speed all game. Like, his feet weren't really there, so I understand the decision. It looks like Kyle falls a little bit. He trips over himself. What are you going to do, man? We deserve to lose.
The game. That's going to do it for us tonight, guys. We hope you enjoyed the live show. This is the wrap-up, your Raptors Republic post-game live show where Toronto Raptors came up short versus the Detroit Pistons 116-112. Before we do leave, we're going to ask you all to obviously like, comment, subscribe to the Raptors Republic channel. Guys, there's a bunch of content on the Raptors Republic channel. We got Zerar doing film analysis. We got Samson's weekly podcast. We've got the Talking Raptors podcast. If you go deep enough, you're going to find some D1 coaches that have been interviewed. Oregon State head coach, San Diego State's assistant coach. So there's a ton of content on our channel. And the subscribers have been flying up. So we appreciate that. And obviously we want to thank our sponsor, RF Qureshi. Stop. We got to thank our sponsor, RF Qureshi, for Remax for supporting the show as always. His details are obviously at the bottom of the screen. We'll see you guys 2 days from now where we face the Utah Jazz on Friday night. And hopefully, guys, we can come through with a big win against the best team in the league. We'll see you. And that's it. That's enough for me and Oren.